Ninja Gaiden 4 represents a bold, bloody, and brutal return for the notoriously slick action series. Remember when games used to be cool? Platinum Games does, hence why the legendary Japanese studio, famous for the likes of Vanquish, Bayonetta, and my beloved Astral Chain, seemed like the perfect fit to help revive the 3D incarnation of Ninja Gaiden for a new age, at least on paper. I now know this to be fact rather than merely hypothetical, however, having been able to experience this new entry's first 4 stages. And surprise, surprise, the action is slick, the visuals eye-popping, but more importantly, I got the immediate sense while playing that Ninja Gaiden 4 just gets it, in terms of how to embody pure cool. I knew I was in for a wild ride almost immediately after hitting the start button. The preview build kicked off right at the beginning of the game, with new protagonist Yakumo riding the back of a train, fending off countless baddies while speeding towards a futuristic, endlessly drenched version of Tokyo City. There are definitely worse places to set your tutorial. From here, it didn't take long for me to fall back into the rhythm of Ryu Hayabusa's classic 3D adventures, leaping about the screen, trying my best not to get hit, all while trying to deal out death in the bloodiest, goriest fashion possible. It's been 13 years since original developer Team Ninja graced us with Ninja Gaiden 3, so it was heartening to find that in all that time, both it and Platinum Games haven't lost a single step when collaborating together to make 4. One thing that has changed this time around is obviously our main hero, because while the legacy of Ryu's efforts definitely casts a long shadow on this game's events, at least from what I could tell, it was a pleasure to discover early on that this new story doesn't really require any foreknowledge of that first trilogy's events. Yakumo, as a master ninja belonging to the equally as proficient Raven clan, proves to be just as capable. Equipped with 2 blades referred to as Takaminkata, I was encouraged to get up in the face of my foes with a series of light and heavy attacks, trying to dismember them as fast as possible. It's when an enemy is dismembered, that Yakumo is able to engage in what's called an obliterate attack, which is just as devastating as it sounds, causing the camera to swing up close to both he and his prey to show the inevitably bloody kill animation in all its gruesome glory. So destroying our most obliterate maneuvers, blood splattering across the literal screen is a liberatingly common sight. It's not just overt style and slickness Ninja Gaiden 4 has to fall back on though, but lashings of substance too, particularly when it comes to the various combat options at Yakumo's disposal. Dealing out light and heavy attacks and throwing out shurikens to keep ranged enemies at bay works perfectly fine. That said, doing this consistently is a surefire way to have your blood gauge fill, which when activated enables Yakumo to engage his Blood Raven form on the fly. It's at this point where your usual blades transform into a giant hulking sword. Does using it slow down the pace of the action a fair bit? Sometimes, but it's almost always worth it for the ability to land significantly more damaging attacks, as well as suddenly blow past enemy blocks more effortlessly. Between firing off shuriken at speed, slashing rival ninjas up close, and using grapple points to zip up and then bounce off walls, combat in Ninja Gaiden 4 often feels like a dance when at its best. This is a series historic for its high difficulty though, which is here again in full force. I can't say I had too much trouble batting off the legions of opponents that have a habit of falling out of the sky, but if you don't think on your feet, it's easy for them to corner you, blocking your attacks and catching you off guard, even when you try riposting at a high speed. It's in the Purgatory Gate side missions where a much higher level of challenge eventually kicks in, as you're forced to contend with waves of mindless slaughter. Thankfully, they're totally optional for those who don't want to risk breaking their controller. Also shaking things up gameplay-wise is the fact that there are different weapon loadouts to equip and try out. In my preview build, this meant dipping into the challenge mode, where story chapters can be replayed mostly free of any narrative clutter, and Ninja Gaiden's OG protagonist, Ryu, makes his return with a slightly different moveset. Wielding his dragon sword gives these new scenarios a certain nostalgic tinge, but it's really when equipping Yakumo's rapier and lance setup that the true flexibility of combat was hinted to me. Suddenly, with this combo equipped, plunge became the go-to verb as opposed to the typical slash, resulting in all kinds of other ferocious kill opportunities. The sight of a giant cone blade at the end of a lance would look insane out of context, but in the arcade-like universe Ninja Gaiden 4 takes place in, it makes for a worthy, viable second weapon option. Following the recent release of Ninja Gaiden Ragebound, I wasn't quite sure prior to getting hands-on with it whether Ninja Gaiden 4 would be able to match this same high bar of quality. The truth is, it still mightn't, but my time playing through the game's first 4 stages indicates that it's getting extremely close. The task of implementing the same level of ninja-fueled bliss in the 3D realm is much trickier, no doubt, yet the foundation is certainly here for Team Ninja and Platinum Games to make it equally flourish. In other words, for the second time this year, Ryu Hayabusa might be absent, but his legacy firmly lives on, both in the form of the new heroes, yes, but also the new studios in charge of ushering this beloved franchise to success. Perhaps most importantly though, Ninja Gaiden 4 understands the value in being an airtight character action game that's cool just as much as it is slick, shiny, and splendidly bloody. After what feels like a lifetime, with a little help from Team Ninja, it appears that Platinum Games is back on top. Do you plan on picking this one up? Let us know in the comment section below. Then why not subscribe to the All Out Gaming YouTube channel to stay up to date with even more videos like this. Until next time, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.